currently do is demonstrate two different things. What I want you to do is tell me the classifications between those two different things, but as well, the movements that are involved in order to accomplish those two different things. So here's the first thing. What I'm gonna do is set up, take a half backswing, and come through like this. The second thing, take another half backswing, but come through like this. So let's do that from down the line as well. So first thing, take a half backswing, come through like this. Then second thing, take a half backswing and come through like this. So go ahead and think about that for a second and let me know what you think the differences are. So after taking a second to think about those two different things, let's go back and review them and identify the classifications. So I'm gonna demonstrate the first movement again, right? So take a half backswing, do this, then again, take another half backswing and come through like this. Now, if we think about it, that first thing is a fully released golf club when it comes to our finish position, right? That's what we ideally want, is to fully release the club. However, the other movement, which probably you guys know, is when we come through and we have it here where my arms are flexed and closer to my body instead of fully released. What we call that is a chicken wing. So what we're going to do today in this video is understand how to fully release the golf club and get rid of your chicken wing, but also why it's important and the movements that are involved in order to accomplish it. So let's get into it. So hey guys, before we continue this video, I'm going to ask you guys a question. All the swing talk, all the mechanics talk, and just improving our technique in golf in general, what is the actual purpose? Well, we know at the end of the day is to improve our scores where? On the golf course. However, what do we need to do to improve our scores on the golf course? Well, we need to practice properly, and we need to identify our strengths and weaknesses to figure out what we need to prioritize to improve our scores the most efficient way. So, I want to give you guys something. I've recently made 2 ebooks. One, an ebook on how to apply your range game to the golf course by giving you a game to do daily on the range to help improve your performance, as well as another ebook, a statistics ebook, to help you keep track simply of your stats on the golf course, as well as to give you a detailed picture of your game so you can track the areas that you need to improve most in. So, if you want to know how to improve the quality of your practice when you go to the range to apply to the golf course, and as well to have a statistics ebook completely broken down in detail to help you show what you need to work on in your game in the back of your pocket, go ahead and click that link down below. So now, let's think, why is it important for us to fully release the golf club? Well, there are 2 reasons. The first reason is to ensure that we transfer all the energy from our entire golf swing from the golf club to the golf ball. And secondly is to square the club face. So let's review the first reason why we need to make sure we fully release the golf club, which is to ensure that we transfer the energy from our feet, knees, hips, and torso, which is called the kinematic sequence, and transfer it to the golf club and into the ball for more club head speed. So the reason why we need to fully release the golf club to ensure that we transfer the energy is because, again, when I take a backswing, what I'm doing here is loading up, right? So then as I come down, I start with my I start with my feet, knees, then hips, then torso, then arm, then club, and then it gets to the golf ball, right? What we call that is the kinematic sequence. What that is the order in which all of our body parts fire in a downswing. And that is very much key in order to create more club head speed. However, let's review something. So, if I go to the top of my backswing, and then I start my feet, start my knees, start my hips, and my torso is coming through. As we can see here, there's an angle that we've created, which we call lag. However, what happens if I don't fully release this, but just hold on to it forever? Well, we don't get the speed that we generated from loading up in our backswing and coming down and generating some force with our knees and our hips. So the reason why we need to fully release it is so we can be more efficient in our golf swing and create that club head speed at the bottom, or sometimes we do what we like to call a whip. So if I demonstrate this, once we get to parallel to the ground in transition, what we need to be feeling is that we start to fully release the golf club. Why is that? Because again, if we hold on to this angle and we don't fully release it, then we're not creating any extra speed. The reason why that is because we set up at address, right? There's no angle when it comes to our wrist, so we don't have any leverage here. All we're doing is gripping the golf club. However, when we load up in our backswing, we're creating an angle here. Then when we're at the top of the backswing, we create more of an angle. And then even when we come in our downswing, because of our kinematic sequence, and initiating with our feet, knees, and hips, we create even more of an angle. So then from here, if I keep creating more angle, then it's going to be counterintuitive to create more speed. However, if I start to release it, now I can get back to the position that I want at address, where I'm releasing that angle and getting back to where I need to be in order to create that speed. So that is why we need to fully release the golf club. Then the second reason why we fully need to release the golf club is to square the club face. Now, why is that? I'm gonna go from down the line and demonstrate that for you. So when we set up, right, the golf club here is at an angle, about 45 degrees. So if golf was played at a more of a straight angle, say about 90, then the plane of the golf swing would entirely change. And that plane would also change the orientation of how the face works around the club shaft, right? Because when it comes to, if I have a plane where it's 90 degrees up, now there's no rotation that will happen in the face. It will just be straight back and straight through. However, when it comes to when we change that plane from, say, 90 way up here to 45 degrees, now we set the orientation of the club face where the toe is rotating around the heel and the shaft. So if you see here, as I go back, it naturally wants to open and close on that same golf swing arc that we have, just because of that angle change from 90 degrees to 45. Now it wants to orient in this fashion in order to be most efficient in our golf swing. So now let's go back to face on. So if I have that 45 degree angle, then I take my backswing, and then I'm coming down, and I don't fully release the golf club, we know that this toe naturally needs to rotate around the heel and the club shaft to square up the club face. However, if I don't fully release it and release the angle, then from here, if I keep it, now we see that this club face is going to remain open. And when it remains open, that's when we get into slicing the golf ball or hitting pushes. But as well, a lot of times we want to create that draw or even hit a straight shot. When it comes to the impact interval, because the plane of the golf swing is this way and the toe wants to rotate around the heel, now we have it where we need to release the golf club to square the club face at the impact interval. We know impact doesn't last very long, so that small interval is very important for us to release the golf club in order to hit a straight shot and to create the most club head speed and be efficient. So those are the two reasons why releasing the golf club is important. One, to transfer the energy through our kinematic sequence in our body, from our body to the arm to the golf club, and then bottom out at the golf ball, and then as well to square the club face to hit straight shots. So now, let's review the movements within our body that are involved in order to fully release the golf club. So what are the movements that are involved in order to fully release the golf club versus not release it and having a chicken wing? So I'm going to put this golf club down, and the body parts that I'm going to focus on are the shoulders, the arms, and the wrist. So let's focus on the shoulders. So for our shoulders, if this is anatomical position, so neutral here, for our shoulders, in order to fully release the golf club, we have two movements. We have internal rotation, so I'm gonna put my thumbs out here, and I want you to keep track of where they are in terms of where I am currently in order to understand these movements. So the first movement is internal rotation of the shoulders. So as you can see, my thumbs are moving inward. And then if I go back to neutral, then I rotate the opposite way. We have external rotation of both shoulders. So again, we have internal rotation of the shoulders and external rotation of the shoulders. As well, within our backswing, sometimes we can see this from internal rotation of our shoulder to external rotation of our shoulder. So that's the first thing when it comes to the movements of the shoulders. Now, let's focus on our arms. So with our forearms, again, an anatomical position as well. So if I internally rotate and externally rotate my shoulders, as well, we can see the forearms rotating. Now, what we describe that as is, so if I'm in anatomical position, we describe that as supination and pronation. So supination would be palms facing forward, and then pronation would be palms facing behind. Or a lot of times, when it comes to, if this is anatomical position, where I'm trying to shake somebody's hand, if I have it elevated, this is supination of the forearm and pronation of the forearm. So a lot of times for supination, I like to have an example of as if I'm serving a plate to someone. And then pronation is if I'm bringing that plate down and I'm spilling the food. So that is one way you can remember supination and pronation of the forearms. Now, one key to remember is that we can have supination and pronation of the forearms without the shoulders internally and externally rotating. There's a degree in which they can be rotated with the forearms but not affect the shoulders. So if I have my shoulders pinned, my elbows pinned so I can remove my shoulders from it, I can still, if I have it in a neutral position, supinate and pronate. You can see my shoulders are not moving. So we still have that within the forearms with supination and pronation without affecting the shoulders. Now, the last things that we're going to go over when it comes to the wrist is flexion and extension. So again, I'm going to be in anatomical position, this way, how my body's oriented. Then from here, flexion and extension would be where the backhand of my wrist will be moving downwards, and then now extension will be the backhand of my wrist moving upwards. So, or a lot of times, again, if I have my elbows pinned in here, my wrist, if I have it in neutral position, this will be flexion, where the back of my hand is getting forward towards the camera, and then now extension will be where the back of my hands are facing behind me. Now, the last movement that we have when it comes to our wrist is called owner and radial deviation. So let's demonstrate that. So again, if I'm in anatomical position, right? And then from here, we know within our forearms and our wrists, we have our ulna and our radius when it comes to our forearms. So here, if I'm in anatomical position, radial deviation would be, say if my thumbs are up, right? Where radial would be when my thumb is moving up toward the sky, and then we have owner where it's going towards the ground. So if I demonstrate this with the golf club, you can see a little bit better. So if I have it here where I do radial deviation of my wrist, you can see my thumb and the club is going up. So that would be radial deviation. Then from here, if we go downward where the thumb points towards the ground, we have owner deviation. And as you can see here, as we'll get into it, that this influences the hinging and unhinging of the golf club. So we'll get into that. Now next, we're gonna go over what movements are specifically involved in fully releasing the golf club versus having the chicken wing. So let's get into that.